Lighting got immediately dark. That's fine. That's fine. It's totally not like I did a whole thing to make sure that this light, like to turn on a light, so that way I should hopefully have better lighting, and it worked for a little bit, but now, obviously, this lighting is not great. I wonder if I can... I should have filters, right? I have filters. I don't want an audio filter, effects filters. We're gonna fuck around with some stuff. That's not what I want. Oh god. Oh god. You know, this is... Oh, we're gonna... We are, exactly, you get it, sorry, I don't know why it suddenly decided it had zero interest in you guys being able to see me at all during this stream, but, you know, we're gonna try and make it work because I think you deserve to see my beautiful, beautiful face. Was there just no way? Oh, okay, go back to defaults, gamma. There you go. That's so much better. Okay. We have a good look. Now, audio, because I have no idea if you heard any of the things that I just said. Let's look. Can you hear me? Like, audio, music bouncing. That's always a big thing for us here. Making sure audio and music are like the perfect vibe for us here. Maybe. You know what? I think we're in a good place. I think we are in a pretty solid place for this, guys. We're doing it. I think we're doing it. Oh. Someone's about to invade my space. That's fine. You may not actually even see them, which is fine. Yes. I pretty much just started because when I told you that I was gonna go live, I completely forgot that I had to make a thumbnail and do metadata and all of that fun stuff. So we're really just starting now. I'll let you know when I'm done though, unless you need to come out here and do something. Senior. Okay, well, now that we got everything pretty figured out, salutations, friends. My name is Brianna Sugiyama-Bond, otherwise known as No Ordinary Scholar, and welcome back. I'm so sorry. I was genuinely not intending to take a break with streamings and reading streams. I think I'm only 2 books ahead in terms of reading. I read The Next Step in His Heat book, and then I read Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas, and I have those set up. The thing that really made me take so much time was the fact that I read this book, the book we're about to discuss, an absolutely remarkable thing. I read that as an audiobook. And usually, as reading it as an audiobook, I would say because of the current job that I have and the way that I'm given time to read and stuff, I don't necessarily have more time to read an audiobook at this job, but I do have I don't think the reading slowed me down. What slowed me down was, like I said I believe I said it in a previous stream, I also believe I said it in a progress report on my vlog channel, I really want to take time to take notes and analyze the book and point out things and parts of craft and writing that I think are really good and really inspirational and that I really love, and also take notes of things that I'm this isn't particularly a thing that I like, or this is something that I think was a little awkward or something like that, so I can also be working on my craft in that way as well. And I did that, but with the audiobook I can really just kind of poke and like push the button and be like, okay, take note of this clip. And then it took me a very long time to figure out an efficient way to like get those clips in text format so that way I can have them to put in my notes. But we have that now. We figured it out. I used the app Otter, which was phenomenal. Really came in clutch there. But that's what we're doing. That's what we ended up doing. We finally got the notes figured out for this. The next couple of notes should be much easier. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm able to stream Physic. I've the number of times I've said the wrong book for this next book. Physic is the book that I read. I should be able to stream that next week. And what is the book? By Aiden Thomas? What did I just say? Lost in the Neverwoods. I should be able to stream that the week after. Yeah. So that's great as well. It was that as well as just the absolute like soul suckingness of being like in that like limbo phase of I'm not really in a place that I can get comfortable and like settle down in, but I also don't know when that would happen. Like being in that awkward space of staying in my brother's room and like having no space to get work set up in, that was also really not helping the situation along. So now we are currently in our new apartment. I don't know how bad the echo is. It didn't sound like horrible when I was doing the audio checks. But yeah, we're currently in my new office. Don't have things like set up yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. It's going to be a hot minute before we get like my legit permanent setup, but we've got this for right now and I dig it. I dig it a lot. So, let's get crack-a-lackin', guys. Let's get crack-a-lackin' with this book. Let's start discussing it. An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. So, book starts off, we've got this chick, April May, and she comes across these, what are 1000% just Gundam statues that have just appeared out of thin air all around the world, and she and her friend Andy end up making a video and posting on YouTube about it. And because they are now the first people to ever like post anything or share anything about this, they were the ones that made first contact with this being, with these randomly appearing statues. They just become the faces of the good side of this, and we'll talk about the good and the bad later. We'll note Hank Green specifically says and like makes a joke pretty much along the lines of like, haters will say it's a Gundam statue, haters will say it's some sort of sci-fi statue. It's literally described, like what he describes is literally a Gundam. And based on how this series and how what they end up they start referring to them as the Carls, based on how the Carls kind of interact with the human race, I think this was intentionally a Gundam. I think this was another means of them looking for a piece of our culture and a piece of our world to make it easier for us to look at, to interact with as we interact with them. So that happens. We find out that the Carls are made of like a substance that cannot physically exist. Like the physics of their weight, their strength, their thermodynamics as well just isn't physically possible. You have people trying to, like, it heats up in the cold, which it shouldn't do, which a metal shouldn't do. Governments try to bulldoze it over, it doesn't move, it like fucking breaks the bulldozer. You have people trying to dig under it, but they stay hovering in that spot in space. So pretty sure that they're alien. And so April and her friends are then they've been bothered by this website, this wiki page that has like some glitch in it. They tried and fix the glitch, but it just keeps going back to it, and they're very bothered by it. I'm not listening to music to the point, but eventually the scientist that they talk to that actually like breaks down for them all the facts that like the like physics of these statues is not like of our world, ends up cracking the code of this wiki page and realizes that, and they all come to the conclusion that the Carls, these statues, are asking for certain elements, and so they bring them to him. And as a result, the statue that they're actually like bringing the materials to, the hand of it pops off and runs away, and then every other statue around the world, because there's several, like I want to say like 60 or something around the world, all of those, there's that same hand disappears. And following that, you have this dream that starts to spread like a virus around people. Everyone, like, you come into contact with someone that's having the dream, and now you start to have the dream. It's very lucid, and everyone starts off in the same like hotel, and then everywhere else in this world of this dream is full of puzzles that they start collaborating to solve. And it's this place where everyone feels really weird about it because they don't know, like, their minds have been hijacked by these aliens, and B, it's weird because it's a dream. It's obviously a dream, but everyone experiences it the same way. And something that I was very curious about is how this dream is experienced by the disabled community, because you see later that April goes into the dream and she is like I think it's after a point she's been attacked at some point, so she's very, very beat up and like has trouble even breathing in the real world. But when she's in this dream, she can walk, she can run, like there's no issues whatsoever. So I'm really curious as to how the dream registers for the disabled community. Like, does someone who can't see start to see in this dream? Does someone who's never been able to walk start to walk in this dream? It's very curious, very curious. That's never addressed. But this dream, again, it prompts a lot of people to start collaborating with each other to try and solve all these puzzles. But you also do have the Defenders, who are this violent, radical group that just want to make a fight about fucking everything, and I hate them. And I don't really want to discuss. I don't want to spend too much time. I don't want to waste too much time on them. The characters written phenomenally well, unfortunately well. And this is something that I do in my own books. There are several parts where you have a very, very right-wing group gets to talk, and it's like I've read those parts to my husband, and just the face he makes, because he's like, God, I just hate it, but they're real and it sucks. And that's kind of the feeling I get. So if you follow me on Patreon, I do post the notes to my readings, the notes that I take for my readings. I do post those on there. So if you want to check that out, you can go see them there. Or you can read the book. It's in libraries and stuff, probably. This is John Green's brother. He's in the library. But yeah, I hate the Defenders. Let's just leave it there. Something though I do want to point out is you have this point in time where, like, April gets caught into the cycle where she's just constantly trying to fight the Defenders, and she is trying to be the exact opposite of the Defenders. And that leads to, like, part of it is, it leads to her dehumanizing herself, and, like, in her attempt to be their opposite and appear as their opposite, they refer in the book as her trying to treat herself as a tool that constantly needs to be sharpened and used in order to be a benefit to society. And that does, like, really damage the way she is able to interact with herself as well as with her, like, the people around her, the people she loves. And you see this point where people from the Defenders movement have blown up and, like, caused, like, bombings, set off bombs around the Carls in an attempt to destroy them, killing lots of people. And someone that same time tried to assassinate April, but the hand of the Carl saved her. The next morning, she wants to go and make a video by her nearest Carl to try and, bring peace and unify the people. Hold on. We good? We're still live. Okay, we're still live, so. Oh, my computer's saying. I'm seeing a thing. I'm seeing very conflicting information from my stream information on YouTube directly. It's saying it's constantly buffering, but it's also saying I have an excellent connection. But this is why I also keep my stream playing for myself, because I can see that it's running. So we're gonna keep going. But April, the next morning after the attacks, decides she wants to go and make a statement to try and unify the people, and she gets attacked and stabbed. And once again, Carl saves her by turning her attacker into literal grape jelly. And you get to this point where April's in the hospital, and she acknowledges that, she acknowledges and praises the fact that her parents at no point are aggressive with her and upset with her and what were you thinking? Because I believe the quote is at the end of the day, if you are stabbed by an extremist, a radical extremist, there's no one to blame but the radical extremist. And you see that. But at the same time, she, because of the event and because of the fact that all of these people died from these bombings, but she ended up being saved, she feels this, because up until this point, she's thought that the Kralls are nothing but peaceful. They just want to bring us together. And she starts losing that because the defenders blew up the areas, killing people, and the Kralls ended up saving her. And she's she no longer thinks that they're here for peace. She no longer thinks that they're here to bring us together. And it's weird to see that we do acknowledge, in terms of her as a victim, being it's not her fault. It's obviously just the fault of the people that went to this extreme extent. But we're still willing to blame the Kralls for just being fucking present. You know, it is that idea of saying, what was I gonna say? There was if it's the idea of saying say someone wanting to shoot a mall or something because there were black people there, and you're not willing to blame or put any blames on the people that actually got shot, but the black people that were there that upset this person and made them want to shoot someone. How dare they? How dare they cause such strife between the community? You know, that didn't. It was weird to see that we were acknowledging that as a victim, as a person being attacked, she shouldn't be to blame. The blame should be put on the person that shot her, but there's also blame to be had because the Kralls were there, and people were getting so fucking irritated and upset at the existence of the Kralls that they were wanting to attack these statues that had basically done pretty much nothing. But whatever. In the end of the book, you do have this final clue to all the puzzles that are in the mind world. And this clue, presumably at first everyone thought that only April could solve it, or only April could go into the dream and solve the puzzle. But we find out that April, at the very beginning of the book, something had happened she was upgraded to first class at some point for some interview she was going to, and her TV in first class was glitching out. She took a picture of it, posted it on Twitter, and that was the key to the last puzzle. And so the defenders had it, find out that once her and her crew solved the puzzle, figured everything out, they were they ended up solving it, but found that it was an address saying April only, and April, in an attempt to beat the defenders there, made the rash decision to go out and run out there by herself with no help, no plan, just sped off there. Turns out that was a trap. They had kind of hijacked they had hijacked the information that they were using to solve it, that April's team was using to solve the puzzle, and they ended up trapping her in a building, setting fire to it, and quote unquote killing her. Maybe it's complicated, but while she is like fighting for her life in this fire, the rest of the world is able to figure out the puzzle. And I think it's really funny. I think this is a really, really funny moment in this book where she's like in this fire and she considers the idea that she's about to die. And she's like pouring her heart out because she's live streamed the whole thing. She wanted to live stream the whole thing from the second she got to the place, even through like the fire and everything starting. And she's like realizing she might die. And she's pouring her heart out, saying, that she says, like, fame is a drug, and as I sit here in this gross little smoky smelling room trapped by some unknown prankster, I know that earlier today I was really mean. I was a bad person. I hurt a lot of people who care most about a lot of the people who I care most about in this world because I'm addicted to attention. I do things that are bad for myself and my friends and my health. And then because in the background of everything, there's this like iPod, this random iPod that's playing a song, and everyone's like, I know that song. I know the song, and that lyric's definitely not in there. There are a few threads of support, and then Roger Ogden says, I just read and listened like 12 times. It sounds like every town around the world, Jesus must be touched with gold, but what the fuck? It's super hard to hear over April talking though. And everyone's like trying to figure out the puzzle, the last puzzle of the whole thing, while she's like pouring her heart out, and they're like, shut up. I think it's very, very funny. But yeah, that's my biggest note on the book. Is I feel like the beginning took a long time to get to what is going on and what's important about the Carls, because you just have too much time of, okay, we see this random statue thing, and now we're going off into like so many chapters of just her interacting with the new fame, of talking about these statues and going off in interviews and stuff like that, to the point where her fame, like, I genuinely was like thinking that this book was not a sci-fi or anything. As I read that, I was like, oh, I guess I misread the genre or something. This seems to be just like a regular fiction or something, but with just a random fucking statue or something. Because it got to the point where her fame and how she interacted with her fame and how she reacted to all that stuff became a result of itself, where her character was developing, and her character was like moving forward, and the plot and everything was moving forward as a result of just the fame and the travel and the money and stuff like that, before we got back to any progression with the Carls. And it just got to a point where I very much lost the point of the book. I lost how it just got so many steps away from this unknown object that like is curious, and how that's affecting the world, and just more and more of how being on television is affecting April, and how like having an assistant is affecting April and stuff like that. So like that was my biggest note, is that it did take a pretty big detour, and it lollygagged a little too much for me. But there were some really good moments, some really great lines in this book, especially like I said in the description of the video. I think this is a really interesting book to read with the social media age that we're in, and how this is just how like that attention and stuff is really frankly not intended for people. Like, people were not built for any of this. Like our human minds were not built for these types of situations. Let me see. There were several quotes. I'm running out of time to talk to you guys about the different quotes that I love so much. But I do want to talk about a couple of them. Like they say, fame, after all, is but the sum of all the misunderstandings which gather about the new name. And the description that they give is kind of gruesome about how they describe her dying in that fire. We'll save that for y'all to read in my notes on this book. I feel like there's another fame quote that I saved, but I guess you can read that in the notes as well if you would like. They also, I do think, did really well at describing the, like, kind of decline of April's character into the, like, just kind of asshole that she becomes. Like, for instance, there's a point where towards the end, Miranda has been a part of the group, and she just wants to, like, help out with everything, and she is the coder that has been in charge of, like, the major coding parts of the whole situation. And towards the end, April ends up asking her to make a program that can essentially replace her. And we see, like, April, because the book is told from first person point of view. April says, "So yes, I was offhandedly asking this beautiful genius who wanted nothing more than to be a part of this, to compile a bunch of code for me that would make her unnecessary to me. Did she know that? Oh, absolutely. Did she do it anyway? Of course she did." Yeah, I think they did a really good job of describing, like, April's character arc in this book, as well as just the struggle of getting that attention in a level of attention that humans really just kind of weren't built for. Which does remind me of, I forgot what the actual title of the blog post was, but it was this blog on how specifically Twitter and stuff and the internet and social media are like these places you go if you want to completely implode any form of context, because now information is getting out to people that don't know you, don't know how you were trying to say things, stuff like that. And so, as opposed to having anything to do with what you're trying to say, those words are now interpreted based on how they view it. And it's definitely an interesting read for the social construct and the social context of this book. I thought it was a good book. I think I gave it like 4 stars. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on this here stream. Next one we are going to do is going to be Physic, which, you know, there are definitely some things to discuss there. I have some very excited things coming up for you, which should be out, like, starting to come to fruition next week. Hopefully. I will keep you updated on that. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, and until next time, valedictions, friends.